Gavrilo Princip, the man that would start the most destructive catastrophe of the known world at the time with only a single bullet. That's the story that most people are made to believe. But behind the scenes is a world of betrayal, planning, and execution of the biggest plot twist in the entire history of the world. So come with me on a journey where I will explain how the Jews started World War I. And let's get into it. As we all know, Gavrilo Princip was a part of the Black Hand Group in Serbia. Now, the Black Hand Group was a military organization working in Serbia to realize the plans of a united Slavic nation that had spent a lot of its funds in the First and Second Balkan Wars, making sure that Serbia would come out on top. But now, the problem was that the entire organization was on the edge of bankruptcy. And then, somebody that really goes over everyone's eyes while looking at history from this period came in. Sir David Albala. Now, Albala was a Jewish Serbian officer and a diplomat that was hella rich and admired the plans of the Black Hand Group for a united Slavic nation. So, he agreed to save the group from bankruptcy only if he would be allowed to become the leader of operations of the group. And not having another option, the Black Hand agreed to this deal in the summer of 1913. After taking over the Black Hand, Albala knew that he had to change some stuff in order to stay relevant in Serbian politics. So, he transformed the Black Hand from a military organization to an intelligence organization focused on spreading instability in the Austro-Hungarian Empire to make it easier for the Slavic population in the south to rebel in order to create what we know as Yugoslavia. But first, the Black Hand would need to expand. So the Black Hand began a recruitment campaign to recruit and train new spies for the Black Hand. But there was a problem. The Austrian Archduke was planning to go on a visit to the newly acquired city of Sarajevo to stabilize the region, and the Black Hand could not afford to lose its influence on the southern Slavic regions of the empire. And on the 28th of June, Sir Gavrilo Princip was given the honor to carry out this detrimental task that would determine the fate of the entire region. The original plan was to throw a bomb at the Archduke's car, but when that failed, Gavrilo Princip thought it was all over. Ready to commit suicide, he sat at a cafe, contemplating on if he should take a cyanide pill or not. But suddenly, he saw the Archduke's car that had taken a wrong turn passing by, and after grabbing his pistol, Sir Gavrilo Princip would go on to shoot the Austrian Archduke and his wife, changing the course of history forever. Right after the Archduke's assassination, Europe was in chaos. None of the great powers knew what would come next. After a month of deliberating with Germany, they were allowed to send an ultimatum to Serbia, demanding that they become an Austrian client state. After this ultimatum was refused by the members of the Black Hand in Serbian politics, Austria declared war on Serbia. starting what we know as the Great War. Now, Russia, as the defender of all Slavic nations in Europe, immediately rushed to Serbia's aid, while the Germans continued backing Austria and joined the war on their side. With Russia involved, the French defensive pact with Russia was provoked, making the French enter the war on Serbia's side. Europe was in flames, yet the Black Hand had way bigger problems to deal with. They had to make sure that Serbia could survive as long as they could to let the Russians and French prepare their armies to win the war. So the Black Hand members in the Serbian parliament began issuing orders for the nation to immediately mobilize its armed forces, which was accepted by parliament and the public. When the Austrian offensive began, it looked like it was all over. The Serbian defenses were failing, and they might even have to retreat back into Belgrade. But then, the Black Hand spies, working together with the Russian intelligence agency, found the Austrian battle plans and were able to prepare a solid defense, saving the nation from its fate. By this time, the Germans had already executed the Schlieffen plan, going through Belgium and the Benelux to breach the French defenses. But this also had an unexpected outcome. The United Kingdom, that had been guaranteeing the Belgian independence, was dragged into the war, and hundreds of thousands of Brits were sent to France, finally stopping the German offensive right after Paris, and forcing a retreat into more defendable positions. With the failure of the Schlieffen plan, the race to the sea began, with thousands of miles of trenches going through the front lines that were impossible to cross. And in the start of 1915, the German offensive in the west had been stopped. But the same couldn't be said about the Russians. Their offensive into Germany was annihilated by the outnumbered German garrison, and they were now on the defensive. And the Germans were gonna take advantage of the Russian incompetence. The Russians were pushed back, battle after battle. But in the summer of 1916, the Russians had some luck in Galicia against the Austrian defenses, almost taking the entire region. But the Russian population was getting tired of pointless war, and something had to change fast. The Italian and Ottoman entries into the war didn't prove as useful as they should have. But the Ottoman entry into the war was way bigger of a problem than the Serbians could have ever imagined. The Ottoman army was really outdated, but they still tried invading the Caucasus and Egypt, both ending in failure. So the Brits had an idea. They thought a naval invasion of Gallipoli and the capture of Istanbul could knock the Ottomans out of the war. But after the Ottoman army repelled the invasion, the Bulgarians, seeing how well the Central Powers had been doing, joined the war. And the Serbians now stood no chance. Right before Serbia itself fell, the Black Hand members, with some of the remaining Serbian troops, was able to escape into Italy through Albania, where they would be sent to the city of Thessaloniki for an eventual reconquest of their homeland in the future. We arrive at the year 1917. Both sides have been exhausted from 4 years of fighting, and Russia has had a civil war, surrendering the East to the German domination. In the south, The Italians are stuck in the Alps while the Romanians had been annihilated. The Ottomans have begun losing their ground in Arabia, and the Greeks have finally joined the war on the Entente side. The Battle of Verdun had resulted in great casualties for both sides, and at this pivotal moment, the Black Hand would finally play its biggest wild card yet. Mr. Zimmerman, you see, Albala had contacted Zimmerman and convinced him to join the Black Hand's cause in 1916, and now was the time. When the Kaiser ordered Zimmerman to deliver a telegram to Mexico about a possible invasion of the States, Albala stopped Zimmerman and told him to stage an accident with the telegram so that the British could intercept it, and after Zimmerman agreed and did as he was ordered, the British intercepted the telegram, showed it to the Americans, and now the USA was in the First World War. Thousands of fresh American troops began shipping into Europe, and Germany, knowing its time was limited, tried one last desperate offensive to capture Paris, but it was stopped, with the Bulgarians and Ottomans capitulating and Austria-Hungary soon collapsing on the 11th of November 1918. The war to end all wars was over. The Black Hand had finally done it, orchestrated world events to go in their favor. And after a little bit of deliberation at the peace conference, the idea of a united Slavic nation under Serbian domination, run by an organization with a Jewish leader, had thrown the entire world into chaos, and the Jews would pay for that price for starting World War I in the sequel. Thanks everyone for watching, and subscribe for more Jewish history videos.